started working glass in the early 70s, more or less right at the beginning of the new contemporary glass movement in Australia. I like the material. I love its glassiness, its fluidity, the way that you can work it. But it always stays at arm's length, and it takes a fair while to get friendly with it. You could work with its clarity, with the colour, with its reflectivity, with the shininess of it. I like the capability of creating different textures on the surfaces. I like making it sensuous. I like making it dangerous. One of the first times that I really got the feeling for glass as a material was in Venice, in the Vanini factory in 1975. I saw the glass workers working as a team in an environment that hadn't changed for hundreds of years. The spirit and the passion of the connection with their material inspired me to make glass my medium.
They look like peaches, is that what they can be?
Apples.
Apple.
I think maybe. Pauline and I operate a glass business, a glass arts business out of our home where we've lived in Adelaide for the last 15 years. We got married in 1974 while we were both at art school in Gippsland, and a couple of years after that we started our first studio in a small farm near the school. We've been working together ever since then in a small glass crafts business to support our family and ourselves.
We went into this without having a plan, so it meant that we were actually negotiating what the next plan would be with each other as we went along. And the fact that we had 3 small children and worked at home was, in retrospect, a wonderful thing because we truly could share the business and share the children. I've felt incredibly lucky that I've enjoyed our working life together.
Beautiful colour. When we first set up the glass studio, I bought all the equipment and machinery to get the studio going. But I also bought the equipment to set up a business in welding to make cattle crushers or gates, because we had very little confidence that our business would actually work. There was no precedent for that in the country at the time. We started in a bit of a void with a lot of enthusiasm, dumb enthusiasm. Back in 1976, when we started building our first glass studio, we had to make everything ourselves. A lot of the steel and things we got from junkyards around the Latrobe Valley. The glory hole, for instance, was a 13-gallon oil drum, and the steel around the furnace was scrap angle iron from the SEC. Some of the first tools I made were like this one here, which I found the components for in a garbage bin in the studio we worked in America. A lot of the mistakes I made in making tools to start off with were because you'd see a pair of tools illustrated in a book, or you'd see them on somebody's bench, make a mental note of how it goes and build one yourself. And so I built this Sophietta from a drawing in a book, and it's about the heaviest Sophietta in the world. It's a turned solid piece of steel, and it's around about the right size and shape, but it's a crazy thing because it chills the glass off way too much there when you use it. Sculpture was my first orientation in the arts, and it still is. I make my pieces in series of works. The last series that I've been working on is scent bottles. A lot of the techniques that I use are Italian. One of the typical aspects of this style of glassworking is the use of canes, long thin rods of colour that are used to make stripes in the glass. I'm a craftsperson, a tools guy, a designer maker. I like the process and the machinery. I like working with people and really getting inside the glass. The inspiration for this series comes from the massive oversized scent bottles from chemists or perfumeries. I take this as a model for my own work and build my own aesthetic into them. Each series is an evolving body of work that changes slowly over a period of time with my change in interest in colouring or patterns or surface work or the compositions of the pieces. I'd like to take the components that I blow in the studio and work them in various ways. I build them into sculptural works that are based fairly strongly in the history and traditions of the craft and glass, but they're non-functional works and they're exhibited as sculptures. Another series that I made through the 1990s were the torsos, figurative forms that came directly out of my work in life drawing. When I showed this group of work for the first time in America, I got an instant and powerful response from a group of people that thought that I was taking the female form and binding it with wire. It was kind of exciting and a bit scary because it's a rare thing for a craftsperson to get such a strong emotional response to the work.
Well, good morning. It's going to be a great day to get outside.
Getting our work shown in America has been a really important step for us. The audience for the glass arts in America is huge. There's a relatively well-informed group of collectors and a good network of commercial galleries that deals with the glass arts.
I'm getting a little silly. I've been in the sun for like 12 days now.
People flock like cattle to Seattle after Kurt Cobain. And before
Seattle's a great city. There's a huge and vibrant community. It's the world centre for the contemporary glass movement at the moment, and there's probably 3 times as many studios in Seattle as there is in the whole of Australia. One of the people primarily responsible for getting this going there is Dale Chihuly. All of us worldwide have really benefited from what Chihuly's done in glass. He's been a champion for the growing glass movement right around the world for years and years. Just about everywhere you look in Seattle, you can see world-class glass on show everywhere. Lino Talipietro was one of the very first people that I saw working in Venice in 1975 that really influenced me. I've been able to work with Lino from time to time, so a lot of the techniques that I use now are Italian, and a lot of the people that I work with have been strongly influenced by him as well. And the complexity of the pieces is really similar to these, where there's lots of different things going around in different sections and comes together well.
Collectors do respond to that.
One of the exciting things for me is that they come together in a spontaneous kind of way, that each of the components is made separately, and then I fabricate them as I would if I'd found the pieces and just put them together in the studio. The Marinis in there I found up at Dick Marcus's place in a drawer and stuck them in there.
We were very pleased to be introduced to Nick Mott through Dale Chihuly's people. We showed Nick's work at SOFA Chicago and SOFA New York, had a good response from the collectors nationwide. He's able to incorporate the diverse techniques in each piece. And from top to bottom, the collector is able to perceive the skills that Nick has developed over the past 25 years. And all of these techniques allow him to make each piece a separate, distinct, unique sculpture. We like pieces that stand on their own, that can be viewed from all sides, that have a unity, that when you look at the piece, everything belongs there. So we're really pleased to work with Nick because we feel that he's able to make sculpture, not just glass objects, but sculpture.
Our major outlet in the United States at the moment is Riley Hawk Galleries, and they sell our work right across North America. Our work seems to fit really well into their galleries. It's really exciting for me to see it presented so well in an international forum. One of the most important parts of the Seattle glass scene is the Pilchuck Glass School. It's situated about 100 kilometres north of the city of Seattle. It was founded by Dale Chihuly and a group of students in the early 70s in an open paddock under a tent. I've been invited to teach and work at the Pilchuck School several times since 1985, and in 1999 I was appointed to the school's International Council.
Howdy. Hey there. How you doing, sir?
Hey, Pike.
Welcome.
How you going? Part of my role on the International Council is to foster support for the school from all around the world. As part of that, in Adelaide, we've established the Pilchuck Scholarship for a first-year trainee at the Jam Factory Glass Studio. Over the years, Pilchuck's become known as one of the most exciting places in the world to go and study and work with glass.
Well, I first met Nick in the early 80s when he came to Pilchuck as a teaching assistant for Dick Marcus, and he's a very enthusiastic and energetic individual and always worked very, very well with the faculty and students. And I think that's probably a big reason that he was asked to come back on a yearly basis. As his career was really starting to take off and he was becoming much more professional with his own work, it seemed like a very obvious thing to have Nick as a person on our International Council.
I love to come here and see the people and see what they're doing. Another reason I like to come here is the social aspect. The workshop sessions are a great chance for us to catch up with friends and mix with people from all over the world. Although we come from all over the world and speak different languages, we tend to see ourselves as a big glass family, and we share a common obsession with glass as a material.
There are explosives involved in it.
There are people that come here to the school with all sorts of different teaching techniques. Some of them are a bit crazier than others.
Famous quote. Quote Paul, act of destruction is equal to the act of creation.
That's the famous quote.
Famous quote.
Most years since I started working in glass, I've spent some time in the United States, getting experience with new techniques and getting to work with the people in their studios. The studios that I've been working in recently are just across the Puget Sound from Seattle, out on Whidbey Island. Over the last couple of years, I've been coming to work in studios to actually make work and to get it ready for the galleries. Of all the people that I've worked with and met over here, Dick Marcus has been by far the most influential and helpful for me in my career.
Dick, my man.
I'll see you. Yeah.
How was your trip?
Not too bad. 3 ferry line though. Dick's been one of the major players in the contemporary glass movement.
ready to do some work.
His work is highly collectible and is in great demand for teaching all across the world. Dick first came to Australia in 1974 with the assistance of the Crafts Board of the Australia Council. He was travelling around giving demonstrations in glass blowing, and when he came to our school in Gippsland, I started working with him as an assistant.
So I went up there and I said, I need some help. And the guy, Nigel London, and he said, get that guy over there. He's undirected. He's really talented, but he doesn't know what to do. So, and they pointed at Nick. And Nick could weld, which was real important.
One of the very few things I could do.
At that time, Australia, they had a bunch of money with the Australia Council, and they weren't afraid of spending it. It was really admirable. They weren't afraid of making mistakes. One of my major disappointments sort of Australia is I expected sort of this much more pioneering spirit of people like, okay, let's get it done, let's do all that. And in fact, everybody, especially in all the schools, the colleges, they were always waiting for parts to arrive from England, and it just drove me nuts. And Nick and the place in Gippsland was one of the few places where there was that sort of spirit, and was able to get things done.
I think in the State College in Carlton, you were asked if anybody you'd met along your way would deserve a grant to go to America to study glass.
Right, and you were in the background going, me.
That's right. I got the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was in 74, then you came over in 75.
And then I came back, and then I came back,
Yes.
and then I came back, and then I
We're
came
starting to
back.
call him Boomerang Nick. He keeps coming back. The guy who wouldn't leave.
This year, Dick and I have worked together for a month in his studio on Whidbey Island. We shared the time sort of 50-50. Katrina worked with us on the island, and she came and assisted us for a whole month. Dick was working on his series of Animal Kingdom Marini pieces, and I was working on components for a new scent bottle series. Gathering glass from a furnace on a rod is like taking a dip of honey on a stick. It's sort of wet and runny. It can burn the hell out of you pretty quickly, and it's difficult to control to start off with on the end of the pipe. It takes a fair while to get friendly with it. Working on the glass the way that we do it, with a team or with a small group of people, it's really important that we all know what the end goal is and that we're all in sync the whole way along. Each piece has to come together at the right time, and the glass has to be delivered at the right temperature. There are critical stages that have to be controlled by the three of us all together, and it's really important to keep the flow going the whole time. We've always got to be fluid in action and movement around the studio though, and flow like the glass does to get a natural feeling and form from the material. To work the glass properly, you have to keep it within a range of working temperatures. It can't be too hot or too cold. And then as soon as you finish the piece, you have to put it away in the annealing oven and cool it slowly so that it doesn't crack. Over the years, I've got a bit of a collection of blown pieces here stored at Dick's place that I can work on and then assemble them into finished objects. When I blow the pieces in the studio, I make them as components with a bit of an idea of how they're going to end up in the piece. This could be a base, it could be a neck. Each piece is cut and polished in some way or another before it's included into the form. A lot of the components that I've been working on recently have been made up of various layers of coloured glass. This one's got an opaque orange overlaid over clear, and then on the inside is gold ruby, a transparent gold ruby. And this one I'll be cutting small olive-shaped windows through the opaque orange to reveal the transparent gold ruby underneath. Each of the scent bottles is made up of quite a few components. Depending on how easily I get the composition together, the surface work and the finishing can take a week or a month or a day, and that really each piece is completely individual. During the glass blowing process, there's offcuts incidental to the form. I save them all and anneal them, and sometimes I'll use them as a decorating piece or a connecting piece on the outside of the forms. I'm just finishing off a new group of scent bottles to be sent to an exhibition in New York. All I've got to do with this piece now is clean it and pack it. And then after 3 months, I'm really ready to go home. Each time I go away, I bring home with me a whole bunch of information and a great new spurt of energy to put into my own work here. It's great to come home, and what I bring home from a trip away is really important for my work. A big part of our craft practice is taking on commissions. At the moment we're doing a job for the Australian National Gallery. We're making 100 wine decanters with funnels. With each commission job we go about designing to the brief, making the prototype and filling the order. For a job like we're doing for the National Gallery, we need to get a mould made from the prototype and then get a team of people together to work on the production run. It can be a really, really exciting process. With a production run like this, the team dynamic that evolves over the period of time is really important. There's always a cycle of productivity with each new job, and it's important that the whole team works really well together and each person takes responsibility for the whole job, not only just their little bit. The Jam Factory Glass Studio is the focus for the glass community here in Adelaide. It's got an access studio through which I make most of my hot glass work. I was ahead of the glass program at the Jam Factory from 95 to 98. It's primarily a training workshop. While I really enjoy working in glass studios all over the world with people from different cultures and in different sort of teaching and working environments, I love to come back and work at the Jam Factory Glass Studio. Most of the people that I still work with there now have been part of that training program at some time or another. With a production run, the same as working on anything in the glass studio, you've really got to learn what you're doing to start off with. At the beginning of the run, the productivity level is usually pretty low. People are learning their position on the team and they're in relationship to everybody else around. You have to know your place and work in with everybody else. The learning curve is fairly steep. Each member has to get to know each other and has to really trust each other and know what they're going to be delivered and know what they're expected to hand on. And in a tight working environment, you have to be very, very aware of where everybody's going to be. It can be a little bit dangerous, with pieces of glass flying around fairly close to each other.
I like working with Nick. Having him with the amount of experience he has can often help us all out to get the team up and rolling. Nick has trained a lot of us and is very generous with his knowledge. You just have to look at him for a little while at work to know how good he is. He's a great blower and helps everyone as much as he can.
Well, I've been working with glass for quite a while now. I still don't really feel like I know it well enough to say that, well, I've done it. There's lots and lots of new directions I can go, and it's still heaps of fun.